Thank you, Larry, for the introduction and for allowing me the opportunity to be with everyone tonight. And I believe in divine timing for all things. And just to clarify a little bit, my work as a metaphysical spiritual teacher has been over 45 years as well. This, for me, started as a child. I was raised in an academic-based family, and they didn't believe in any sort of thing like this. So ultimately, what has happened, if someone has a problem here, Tara K, with the volume. Is anybody checking that? Anyway, I hope that they turn their volume up on their side. And they can set it in their settings if they want to do that. You want me to walk them through how to do that with their speaker on there? I'm used to hosting, so. But that's okay. We'll go ahead. And hopefully someone will help her by writing the notes about how to adjust it on her Zoom so she can hear the speaker level at the level she needs. Alrighty. And so back to that. So as a child, I was born psychic, but this was not discussed. This is one of the subjects that was not discussed. And when things would happen, I would know and say that to my mother. They would just, their mouths would just open. But I couldn't stop going to church every Sunday. It was something I had to do. They were the Easter, Christmas, Mother's Day family. I wasn't. I had to get there all the time. And so by 12 or 13, I decided that I wanted to be a nun and give this psychic gift to the divine. But by 9, I realized with my library card, there was something great. I had this interest, and I was looking at all our references, that the only thing I could look at from our Britannicas and encyclopedias and world books and all that. But I thought, I don't have to go to the child section or the children's section. I can take that library card and go to the adult section. So by 9, I was reading literally everything on esoteric sciences, metaphysical sciences, spirituality. I wanted to be the youngest Rosicrucian at, I think I was 9, but I never had the $5 to, on the back of the comic books, was to learn the secrets of life. So this started for me. But remember, I was in a family that did not discuss the subject matter. So it intensified my need to have the knowledge. I used to read a book a week. Now it's 10, 12 at a time at the nightstand. But the whole point is the learning never stops. And that was the key. So I had studied every theosophy, philosophy, I'm telling you, all around the world, the history of the metaphysical spiritual science. I had that sucker down. And I was actually grateful that I had that base of knowledge. And then lo and behold, I'd never heard of Cayce. And it did happen that one night. Since Cayce, that has been, as Larry mentioned, the foundation under my entire work. As a metaphysical spiritual teacher, how can I say it, as a psychic, actually a highly respected psychic in my work, and also as a healer, I teach and do divine healings. But all this is part of the human existence that many of us have forgotten. And so I'm very happy to say that we're now appearing at this time. So I'll open, I will share in just a moment. Thank you for your patience. Alrighty. And tonight's topic we're talking about, and this is, I heard wind of it earlier, this is a lot going on in the world right now today. I'm sure we can all attest. And as we enter the Aquarian age, we finally did. Remember the song? You all know the words. You all know the words. You were there. Most of you. Okay. And so the whole point is it is finally here. But what I want everybody to understand at this time is that is exactly why you asked to reincarnate at this time. And this is the most important, auspicious thing about this time period. I know what we've been through. I know what we've seen. I know what our parents and grandparents, they had seen through the wars, through Cayce's time, from the Spanish-American War, the Spanish flu, World War I, II, what was supposed to be the last of the great wars. I understand we've seen a lot as a human race. But can you imagine, as you look about the world now and what you've had to deal with, especially in the last 4 years, the last 10, 20, you understand as we go forward, there's a lot to digest, but I want people to remember. So tonight, some of the material you may know, so it'll be a recollection for you to put it back in front of your mindset. Others, it'll be new. And I want to warn you, I've had my radio show, a couple of them, like I said, for many years, since the 80s. The first was called All That I Am, that was turned into a television show that was for a network or whatever. But the whole point is this time period is so important. I always ask that what I speak, I will always espouse what is confirmed by the divine universe. I won't say anything unless I've been beat over the head 50 million times by the divine universe, because I'm so skeptical. Remember, that background as an academic background keeps you that skeptical. And so I could learn it, study it, get all the degrees, the certifications, big deal. I want proof. And over a 5-year period, I wouldn't say anything or espouse anything to anyone until the divine universe would confirm it. And after they beat me over the head, I realized then I could on shows or lectures or talks or classes. So it's extremely important to remember there may be things that I say that may be different from your perspective that you had seen. It'll be outside perhaps your purview. It'll be, how can I say it, different from what we were taught through society to believe and to understand about the world, your place in it, and what's really going on in the world. So I ask and open for your patience through this and to really listen and to absorb. And then you have free will, as always, to apply the information or not as we go forward. And so tonight, as I move forward, 1 second here. This is important because this is what we're talking about tonight, this wonderful age. Remember, harmony and understanding, sympathy and love abound, all that. We were bringing it in at the time. I believe it was the 60s and the 70s and the 80s. You saw all this flourish and great change happen. So we thank the hippies. We thank the people that were into the, like I said, thought methods and philosophies that branched out from the 40s after the war on. But there's a reason for all that too, okay? At the time of World War II, it was so low as the energy field was happening. Mother Earth almost died. She almost, and us and everything, all the beings on it. And she hollered out to God Creator, all there is, Source, Force, and asked for help. And so now you see after the war, it wasn't because they were excited to be home. They had 6, 7, 10 babies, 12. So it was important because all those souls that were coming after the war especially were here with a promise and a mission to clean up their own garbage on a personal level from previous lives and to continue their soul growth, not just halt it and stop it throughout till the last draw of breath, and to leave the world better than when they came. This is the purpose. And now we are here. Literally, Aquarius is called the water bearer. And you see the little Devic community there, which I've always seen and known since I was a child. Went to Findhorn and got to see, really immersed in that for their experience week, if anybody ever wants to go. It's amazing. The Devic community exists, but you know, we are limited in our ability to see these things in the world. So we knew that coming in, that there would be a little bit of a blindfold put on us. But you see, this is school, and that's why. You see, every day we are tested here. Instead of, unlike school, we're tested at the finals or the midterms. Every day is a test. But we only retain 1% of the memory from all our compilation of our souls from the beginning all the way to this present point. And people tend to forget. But that was the point. You promised God and the divine universe that you would recall and remember. That's the point of the school. And to, again, to do those things to create that quality of soul growth. So Aquarius, the colors really are blue and turquoise. Those are the colors of that period. And I'm not sure, people don't realize that when they started in the medieval period with the word sacre bleu, that saying was because it was sacred blue. They were seeing a color they'd never seen. Their physicality could not see that color until they saw a different color sky than we do today. They didn't have the quality or the ability of the spiritual connected to the physical state to even see. So it was called sacred blue, and it was expensive as well. But this is the period now of Aquarius. Okay, and so I just want to share how Aquarius shows itself. And in the zodiacal sign that we use, that God Creator has created, it has to be the best computer going for the divine universe. I use spiritual and advanced astrology in my work underneath everything else. And it's amazing what the soul has promised, what it did in past life, and what it promised to do in this. It is all amazing that we were granted permission to come at this time and to complete that, each one with their own chosen life path. So in this Aquarian period that we have now fully entered, this is since March 2024, and all this period from the 2012 period to the 2000s to this new millennium, we've been preparing all this time for to move forward. Now, Aquarius, as you see, rules technology, internet, AI, electricity, innovation. However, the highest uses of Aquarius are telepathy, friendship, unity consciousness, energy, communities, brotherhood, great unexpected change, as you can see there. Okay, so let me go back. This is important because you need to know and be aware of what effects it's going to have. Now, you see, I say the higher uses there because you see what has been structured since the 50s and the advent of television after radio is technology. That's been the emphasis around the world. And that is why you see nobody sitting for family dinner because they've got their phones in their hand or off somewhere else. So we've seen it diminish the entire family structure, which Cayce says is going to return in this Aquarian period of time because we've lost touch. We don't know who our neighbors really are, let alone family. So it's important that we recognize how this is to come together from what we've come to this point. So everywhere else you see, we are being pushed toward technology, as I said, AI. But what about these other emphases here? Telepathy, friendship, how about brotherly love, feeling of love, unity consciousness, oneness? What happened? Why aren't those stressed in our society today? There are 8 billion of us going on 9. Why? Now remember, before you chose to incarnate in this lifetime, you knew it was going to be exactly this mess before you got down here, with beautiful qualities throughout, but a little monkey mess that you promised on a soul level to help aid to get to this new period we promised God Creator. In case you saw ahead that we do this. This is the most important part. Now, as we're going forward here throughout life, I want to go back to the beginning so we can remember our real roots, so to speak, as beings. And so hopefully it can help people to see. Now, I have to move this out of the way. All right. Cayce states the earth plane, the first was a mass of vibrating heat from which arose a seething mist, settled itself as a companion world in the universe of worlds. As it began its natural rotation, it slowly moved closer to the sun, which it receives its impetus for the awakening of the elements that give life in its various forms. Cayce's reading 394-6. Then he goes on to say the laws of creative forces are universal. The first is the law of love. The second, the law of propagation. Third, the law of evolution or growth and development. Thus, the Spirit of God, the creative force, had moved over the earth, and out of chaos came the beauty of raw nature in all its glory. Now, notice I said out of chaos. What do we have today? Is it not out of chaos in the world? And so ultimately, I want to go back to that very beginning. At the soul's creation, now the earth we know was created by God Creator, who had created all the multiverses, all the worlds, all the universes. And scientists just realized there's more than 100,000 galaxies out there and so many worlds that they can't believe they've finally caught up just a bit, just a bit. But what happens here? Does anybody know who the first soul was? What was the first soul that was created? Does anybody know? Some do. Some have it in their memory. Some will jog memory. Some it'll be new information. And this was because he wanted companionship and ability to express. So he created the very first being, which we call Emilius. Actually, it was God's calling him Emilius. That was the very first creation God Creator had. It was part of a whole, but separate with its own free will and reason and individuality. And God loved this interchange because it was so aligned to God Creator. That source we call Emilius, the last incarnation after some 30 that Cayce tells us, we know today as Jesus. And actually, Jesus was an Aramaic Jew. And the Aramaic name for Jesus is Eshoah. E-S-H-O-A apostrophe A. Eshoah. The J and the Y weren't spoken that way. Eshoah. but he will understand that we call him Jesus. But he started off as the first soul that God Creator created. Cayce confirms. Can you imagine Cayce, a Christian mystic, study the Bible every day, every year for every year of his life? Can you imagine him realizing he's got to teach this in Sunday school? Because this we don't have in our holy book. And can you imagine if the world religions would recognize this? Perhaps there wouldn't be the battle and the infighting of who's right, who's wrong, who's better, who's not. Because you see, they think that, yes, he's one of those sages, but he was like the end. He was just like 2,000 years ago. No, actually, he was the very first soul that was created. So we wouldn't have this. But you see, man invented 35,000 religions through our time on the earth. That's the problem. God did not. So when people ask me all my life since I was about 20, they ask, well, what religion are you after they talk to me? I'd say the same religion God is. And they would just look at me like, oh. And if they didn't agree or whatever, that was okay, because we have free will. So we're not always going to agree in this lifetime on anything. That's okay. We can still be kind to one another, which is from the love of the first cause, right? We can still be good to one another. Now, after this, and it was so wonderful and pleasant dealing with Emilius, he thought, oh my goodness, this is fantastic. God, source, creator said. And so he said, I want more of these, but I'm going to make each one a little different. So guess what? All the rest of us as souls throughout the universes were created all at the same time. So people say old souls. That's not what it means, but it's been misapplied. We were all created after Emilius was. All of us. And God made each one of us a little different. So there could be individuality. Tonight we're not dressed the same. That's a good thing. But it's important that we understand, because we're operating on our individuality in our own way, always with love to God Creator. So ultimately, our souls were started. And we used to swim, if you could imagine, the souls only, no physicality, souls. We used to swim through the multiverse that God Creator created, all the nebulas and the stars, the spheres, just enjoying it. Some would hover in groups. They'd go along, and then ultimately, lo and behold, they came to Terra, Earth, Gaia, Earth. And they looked at how beautiful it was. God had created such a gorgeous place. And he thought, okay. And they looked, he said, but the rule was, don't mess with the little earth creatures. You can look and enjoy, but as a soul, don't. But they thought, oh, look at the birds. Look at the fish swimming. Oh, they're mating. Oh, look at the geese. Oh, they're mating. Oh my God, they're eating something. They're eating. Oh my God. And souls, we couldn't experience that. So unfortunately, we started to push ourselves into materiality. Well, that was against the law. But, God had said we can, be co-creators and one day be godlike. And we had this freedom. And all of a sudden, we thought we knew better. And so instead of applying God's will, what we did, we decided ours was better. That was the problem all the way back then. Cayce states that out of the Earth's 4.5 billion year history, humans have been upon the Earth for 10.5 million years. So Mother Earth was here quite a long time before us. And yet here we come, and we thought all of a sudden we don't have to listen to Source, God, Creator. He said we can do our own thing. And so we gorge, and Cayce confirms that it was through our carnal desires for food and intimacy and all that good stuff. We fell and gorged with it. And then we forgot the alignment. And we would, just once a day, once a week. Okay, just once a week. We'll continue. But we went off on our own way. And instead of creating good, there were other creations that were not so good, which is the opposite of good, that God Creator had created all this for. But on this planet, free will exists. So the sons of man, where does that come from? The sons of man are those that fell. So what happened was, all of a sudden the group came, a large group came, and they settled in, and they wondered, well, geez, this feels good. Let's just stay. We don't have to deal with that. And they kept settling in, and they entrapped. It became more material, more physical. And then they started creating monstrosities as well. And so Emilius knew that God was really upset by all this. And he said, oh, God was just hurt by this. He said, I've created something beautiful, and look what they're doing. But he loved them. God still loved them for even what they were going through and messing up on the earth plane. And so Emilius said, if I take some other souls here, some high souls from here that are still traveling around and are not entrapped, let's all go down and we'll all talk. First, Emilius came himself, and he was more transparent, translucent. So they just looked and laughed at him. Look at that. Look at Emilius. He said, we're not doing what you say, because they became more and more deep into their physicality. And then he brought more souls. There were lighted beings that came, and they all came, and some of them fell. Unfortunately, they got trapped. Food? What? This is great. Chewing? Oh my goodness, this feels good. And then he said, okay, let me try one more time. Brought another group. And several of those came, and they got trapped as well. They felt like, this tastes too good. And then in those days, they had real food. Today, not so much. But anyway, what happens is we have the sons of man. And those are the fallen ones, not the aliens, the ones that fell away on the earth from God Creator. Instead of God's will, they started to be selfish and do their will. Okay, now we'll talk about the sons of God and how that comes. And this is important because we're going to discuss how that happened, and you're going to be surprised. There were 5 occupations in the world represented by the 5 physical senses, which were to be conquered before spiritual perfection can again be attained. There were 133 million souls in the earth at that time. Can you imagine 133 million already fallen? So the white race was created in Iran and the Caucasus area around the Black Sea and the Carpathian Mountains of Central Europe. The yellow race was then created in what is later to become the Gobi Desert of East Asia. And the black race was in the Sudan and Upper West Africa. The brown race was in the Andes and Lemuria. The continent lying then in the area of the Pacific Ocean, remember? More spiritually aware than Atlantis. The red race was in Atlantis and America. The environment and climatic conditions determine the color of the race. For all peoples, regardless of color, were of one blood and members of the perfect race. Color of the race merely adapted literally to the to man's condition, which were to be met. All the conditions of the tropics or the conditions of the cold or the climate that they were in, that's what those changes were realized. That's why those changes were realized. And it symbolized the chief attribute of the people of that race. Remember, they all had a particular karma. Now, just to backtrack before I tell you the karma for each one, you see there were 5 sets of Adam. No, they didn't just start in Africa. Okay, that myth came up somewhere about 10, 15, 20 years ago. There were 5 projections, Cayce says, of humankinds, 5 pairs of Adams. So Emilius came through, he said, let me go down. If you help me to be human, perhaps I can teach them how to do this. So he came down, and yes, they had chosen Lilith as his partner, but while she was using her creativity, she kept helping to create things, and she got tired of, Adam whining and complaining because they were supposed to be co-equal creators. Okay, and that's basically, we know the story from the Adam and Eve, but there just wasn't one set of Adam and Eve's. Cayce says there were 5 projections. So 5 sets of that soul was able to, we call Emilius, divide into 5. And then Lilith said, I'm tired, I'm out of here, let me go to other realms and other planets. And so she left, and they took Eve, but not from his rib. The word in Aramaic means from the side, from his energy field. And they created the feminine side. Okay, the opposite for male and female, so they could attract to one another for procreation. So ultimately, the karma is carried by each one of those races that were at the same time created on the earth plane. This is important to understand. In the white race, sight or seeing was predominant or emphasized, how to perceive or see properly instead of incorrectly. Okay, in the red race, feeling or emotion. Remember, Atlanteans were red, the Native Americans red. Okay, and so can you imagine they can feel Mother Earth? We had trackers all the way, could hear trains come from miles away. So their karma, though, is using it properly or using it improperly. Okay, to use it properly is what they promised God to do. In the yellow race, there was hearing. They had to learn to hear properly instead of what they thought they heard. They need to hear what was true or hear what was proper. And then literally in the black race, they had to conquer the gratification of the appetites. How do we gratify food, intimacy? How do we gratify that in the proper way that God intended? And in the brown, the emphasis was on the sense of smell. So whether we smell something that's good or bad or come to detriment because we didn't smell it and didn't realize it was rotten, whatever, and we went through anyway or did and were intoned, or whatever smelled good, we got intoxicated and got lazy and didn't do much. So all those things, all the five senses that the first ones that had fallen were entrapped by, they were placed in all so they could work it out for all mankind. So we are one human race. And also we are one soul that lives forever. And that's what really happens. You see, the Jews as a people, Cayce says, were developed a much later date. The Egyptians came later as well, as a result of the mixture of red, black, and white races in about 10,000 BC, as Cayce says. Okay, so we have to realize this evolutionary process to get back, and the whole point to come this way, Adam and Eve's, all the five sets, or to make sure that we align our will back to God the Father, not our own little selfish will, which is what has happened over and over and over for 10.5 million years. But time is only relevant on the Earth, correct? So it's, how can I say it? It feels like 90 years down here. It's about like that, a snap of a finger. Einstein's theory of relativity. Time is only relevant on the Earth, correct? So I want you to understand, even though it feels like 90 years, you've conscripted for this time. You laid out a lesson plan before you were born that you promised God Creator that would help you to evolve and then help the consciousness of humankind get back on track to align with God Creator's will, not selfish aggrandizement will. And so I could have added one more here, the sons of Belial. And that was after the Adam and Eve. Atlantis had been running around for a wonderful time, for 25,000 years, very spiritually aware, Atlantis. Fantastic. And then the sons of Belial came and they just said, we're going to do whatever we want that brings us pleasure. And so they unfortunately tortured, beat cruelly some of the spiritual ones for those spiritual secrets, and unfortunately turned them into technology. Now, most people don't realize most of the North American continent, especially Americans, 80% are reincarnated Atlanteans, repeating a cycle, not to do the same karma or create the same karma that they've done before. This arrogance had caused them to go from all over the world and say, we are the baddest, the best, do what we say. And so we see it enacted today, even with China and the US. What happened was everybody said, okay, we're going to do what they say. They went everywhere and they put the pyramids up everywhere, as we see. And they said, but China wouldn't comply. Asia said, no, we're doing fine. Mongolia, Asia, we're doing fine with our own. We don't need this. We don't need to comply with you. And so the Atlanteans decided, well, let's just use the crystal in the wrong way instead of for goodness. Let's just aim it down through the earth and bomb it out. So on the other side. Well, it ricocheted back, and that was the last cataclysm that harmed Atlantis. Atlantis suffered 3 cataclysms, and those were major earth cataclysms that Cayce says are natural, normal cycles of development. Cayce says it will happen. We're in the midst and currently, in this current time, of seeing that happen right now. Okay, so what ends up happening in during this period of time is Mother Earth is growing to inspire us to grow and change. But every single planet is growing and changing as well in our solar system. It is a natural, cosmic, divine law. We're not going to stop it. It is growth, whether we want it or not. Are we being selfish? Or are we going to flow because we know we're souls? So there should be no fear. Fear means we lack faith in God Creator. We asked to come here knowing all this would happen. So we shouldn't have to backtrack and just run away scared. That means we don't connect to God Creator. This is that creation of the 5 races you see here. And you see them represented by color here around the world, all created around the world. These are your brothers and sisters, every last one of them, the Russian, the Chinese, every last one of them, the blacks from all the countries in Africa, the reds, the indigenous, everyone. Can you imagine one human race and everybody thinks they're different? But remember that difference is caused to make you feel different. That's not what happened by God Creator's choice. That was because we listened to the wrong people that divide and conquer. And unfortunately, to this day, we continue. Because the oneness is what they're trying to stop. Cayce says this is the last great war between good and evil. The last great war. That's what you incarnated for. To clean up your garbage and use your talents and abilities to inspire your soul growth and leave the world better than when you came. This is essential this lifetime. So as I go forward here, Cayce confirms how souls come after we are granted permission by God Creator, your council sees your classes that you planned on doing. You said, I wasn't so great in 4 of those lives learning that lesson. Put me in the same scenario with the same people, and this time I'll prove to you I can handle it. That's what you said before you came. And you sit in the same situation and you either go for the old pattern or you go for the highest use of that same scenario because it's on your Akashic record. Everything you thought, everything you said, every action you took from the beginning of the soul all the way to the end. And remember, that's how we got the word readings from Cayce. He was in the library. They showed him when a gentleman came and they took a large book and they flipped it open for Cayce to read about the man's life. That was where it was coined at that point. Now, Cayce says that we used to come, now forget the dates that the scientists have here, that's incorrect. That's just scientists. At least they know there's a precession of the pole stars. This is our axis, where Earth is always on her axis, right? Rotating. Okay, and you see it's going in this manner. But what happened was we used to, Cayce says, all the souls used to come through Tubin. All souls that landed on the Earth incarnate came through the pole star or the how can I say it, Tubin. And currently, all of us came through the pole star Polaris, the North Star. Okay, and Cayce says soon, after the Earth makes her next change, and very shortly, it's not long, is Vega. We will be coming through the pole star Vega as souls. You have to go through there to land on the Earth plane. Now remember, Cayce says we make sojourns through all the planets, and then we have lessons. He says Jupiter has 7 dimensions, and Venus has 4 dimensions. Mars, thank God, has 1, all for lessons. And some people repeat, and go back to Mars with their anger, their temper, or how can I say, misconception, a belief, all those things until they learn the lesson and come to Earth and show God the compilation of them all, which is your birth chart, what we're going to do in the best way this lifetime. And God loves us a lot. That's what born again really means. Okay, try it again. It wasn't to be made a religion. So ultimately, we are right in the throes of another pole star change and a precession. Now, I noticed something a while back. I like to research, so I see trends or things happening. And I noticed something happening an awful lot in the last 10 years. And before that, in the 40s and 50s, we'd have there were famous quintuplets and quadruplets and things like that. The aerobic stole and the triplets. They were famous and everybody would see them. They'd have free diapers for life. But the point was, I noticed an increase because you see all of a sudden after, I would say the 70s, there weren't the same amount of births. I guess it's 1.3 to parents in the US, and that's decreased. That study was at least 20 some years ago. So I noticed that we have a ton of twins happening, a ton of triplets, a ton of quads and quints happening all over, and not by in vitro fertilization. And so Cayce says that the twins are actually soulmates, And they may be different in temperaments, but they love each other so much they want to come again in the same package and live that life as brother and sister, or brothers or sisters. And then you get, like I said, give their passage through that parent that they chose. Now, remember, you chose your parents, the circumstances, the location. Your appearance is based on how well you treated society in the life just before this one. Okay, so you might want to realize it's the energy we have inside. It's not external anyway. It's an energy that we shine out to others that they see. Okay, so with these multiple births, you have to realize there's something going on, since it's really happening at a faster pace at this point. At the Earth, at the time of the turn of the century, Cayce's time when he was born, it was 2 billion people in the world. And by the time the Albert Pike and his group got in there, they were 2.2. By the time John D. Rockefeller, they all decided against God's will, and they were into their own will, of course, they decided that there were too many people in the world. And they're still trying to push that garbage to this day, and it's garbage. There's enough land on the earth to handle all the people that are here. Enough. If you go on the scenarios, you can see there's little pieces. If we take and combine all the 8 billion people and put them all together, standing one by one, nicely in rows and files, not on top of each other, not, like I said, crammed in there, it would be the size of New York. So there's plenty of land, plenty of space, plenty of air, carbon, and oxygen. So we have to really listen to what's really going on. And that's why we have to continue to do those methods that Cayce has been trying to tell us. We have to prepare. So in the last 4 years, all of a sudden, this nice awakening, because the first awakening took place between 1958, as you may know, and 1998. During that period of time, after the war, and everybody's kind of settled in and had lots of babies, then the TV started. There was an introduction of energy, of how can I say it, more details, more information that was available to us. And then people tried to utilize it or manipulate it to their advantage. The powers that should not be, unfortunately, our brothers and sisters that chose that route. Remember, we're supposed to be creating what is good, not dissonance to good, not the opposite to good. What is good for all, for others and ourselves, not for others, not like the original sons of Belial. We don't care what it happens to anybody else. We're going to do whatever we want for pleasure. So this is important because during the last 4 years, we got to see unfortunate struggles. We saw, because unfortunate belief systems were so entrenched by the manipulation of the powers, the so-called powers that be, that people stopped seeing their families, stopped talking to their loved ones, started hating them, all because that energy lowers the vibratory rate of the planet. And people fell for it. But we have to love them no matter what, because they don't know better. Didn't we promise to follow the way that Jesus taught us by the time he came as Jesus? I could go into detail because I love that book, The Past Lives of Jesus by Glenn Sanford. That's one of my favorites out of the some 30 or 40 that I've read about Cayce. But it's a really important thing to understand. That's another time. But it's a really important thing to understand what we did, the divide and conquer principle, and it continues to work. So we have this disparaging difference of small unelected people trying to tell 8 billion people what to do. And I have more talks on that on my radio shows or whatever about what I ran into someone in 2011 at a conference I was doing on the earth changes. I've done those conferences all around the world. I know someone here earlier was talking about that. I'm proud of him because more people need to get out there and talk about it. Remember, I tried to disprove all the earth changes. That was me and my academic, this is nonsense. So I started in the mid-70s, but I didn't have internet. We didn't have it, right? So I studied scientifically, geologically, geographically, all those ways, as well as spiritually. And I found that there were other references. I thought, well, the spiritual people are saying it. And then I came across Cayce, who confirms all that. But we'll jump back to where we are today in those last 4 years for a second. This ploy has always worked, this divide and conquer. Japan, US, China, US, Russia, US. What in the world do we keep falling for that? We are one people. One. Always have been, always will be. One human race. There are no differences, as you saw in the creation. None. We all look a little different. We act, and we may never agree. And we're still supposed to be loving and kind to one another, no matter what. But we saw that diminished. We saw grandparents die without anybody around them. mothers, fathers, kids, all kinds of things without family around them. How sad. And I went deeper. That's the key. We've been trained to listen. Was it the programmer for television? I forget what network. Back in the 50s said, when we have everyone believing everything they see on television is the truth and everything that what is really happening is a lie, we will have done our job. That was in the 50s. And if you look, tell, lie, vision, you may have seen those memes. So you have to watch, because in the 40s and 50s, there were some 50 news agencies out there all around the world. And they all had different topics. We could see it from a different slant, a different perspective. We got the real news. And then slowly but surely, they were bought up by the so-called powers that be. And now to this day, we have only 5, all in control by those powers that should not be. So when they give you information, if you've seen those blasts on YouTube, that's real, with all the anchors saying the same things, 50 anchors repeating the same verbiage, and everybody falling for it. And in my heart, I'm still listening to God creator. I'm still aligned. God, is this real? So I like to go, instead of the superficial look that people like to take, what I call the microwave look. You see, the microwave cooks your food real fast and you can get out and do the other things and watch a movie, but it kills all the living nutrients. So I only use it for cooking water and some popcorn before it was GMO corn, okay? I don't use it. I use convection all this time. So it's important that we understand. We can't just take because it's trendy and we get all the commercials and, oh, we got to do this. We have to remember, wait a minute. I was always taught to step back. When something becomes so popular, step back and take a more gracious look. Ask discernment. Keep your meditations going. Keep focusing. What is the real truth? I call it 12th level conversation. When you go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And then your soul is discerning. No, that's misinformation. But there's a lot of people that can't handle the truth. Remember that movie? Okay, You Can't Handle the Truth, Jack Nicholson. I met, by the way. But the whole point was, neither here nor there, but the whole point is, it's amazing how the world draws people through. But my whole point is, can't we be deeper like Cayce tells us to do? Can't we go deeper before we annihilate a neighbor, a friend, an employee, a doctor, an attorney, people that are working for us? What are we doing? We have to remember to think deeper. Now, we know the big topics that we've been dealing with, and their plan is to have another one. All plan. But you promised God and the universe at this time you would continue to grow in your greater soul growth and awareness to help the consciousness evolve at this time. So it's extremely important. I thought it was crazy. I'm not into drugs or alcohol. That's not my thing. It lowers the vibratory rate. It attaches to negative entities that attach. And so they shouldn't be touched, especially when we're doing light work. This is the whole purpose. No dark. I can't handle this life. That's a past life issue. When I was like a monk on vineyards, checking it out, doing a little too much probably. But the point is, in this life, I know I cannot touch it. Somebody's drinking a glass of wine, the whiff, it knocks me drunk. I have to go away. But the point is we realize and look at these, we need to see deeper. What did you promise on a soul level? God created that you were going to do to clean up yourself, to realign instead of your own self. Now, we also see what's trending right now is the transgender work. And I thought, well, what does Cayce say about this? Because some of my closest friends for many years, started off as client 22 years ago, student, and then big friend for over 22 years. And I remember teaching about homosexuality in one of the spiritual classes that I used to do. And it was funny because God and Jesus says patience. And Cayce says the same thing, each in their own time. But if you look at the topics on the ARE website, you find that you can find homosexuality, and there's 20 readings. And he says this is an issue with the physical and mental discordance. And it boils down to, Cayce states, with going against divine law. You see, God in the universe doesn't make mistakes. You would have made that choice. Okay, this time I'm going to be a guy and I'll take a wife and have kids. Okay, this time I've changed my mind. I'm going to be a girl before you're born. But conception is not by mistake. It's a divine act. You've seen the divine spark that happens from conception. So you can have a good old time all weekend, but not get pregnant. But divine spark, because the soul chooses the parents 2 to 3 years before they're born. It's not a one-night stand thing. 2 to 3 years. They hover around the parents getting used to it. And they know exactly, they get to see the parent's life from the beginning of the parent's life to the very end of each parent's life, how they're going to be raised, good or bad. They need that influence that they promised God in the universe they would alter into the highest ways after 18. They promised God in the universe they would change it and still give love and respect to those parents. But as Cayce says, we can't just have an easy life because we wouldn't grow, we wouldn't learn. Like the diamond, it needs a little pressure like carbon, and then we become that diamond again, aligned with God Creator. So watch your thinking that it doesn't just dovetail into what the trend is, because you promised God, wait, I'm going to think about this. I'm going to meditate on it. I'm going to think deeply, be guided to the material. So everything since the internet came out and before, I would go into a bookstore and ask to be guided to the book. They would fall off and I would see it. I couldn't believe it. And then it was amazing. But I always asked for that divine guidance since I was 14. Okay? So it's extremely important that we utilize it in the life. We can have fun and go to sleep and watch TV and the news and all that. But what is it doing for our soul growth? Okay, we do have to have a balance. I have to learn to play. I have a tendency to work 12, 16 hours every day. So this is what was interesting when Cayce came across this. And this is in the Cayce work. Cayce discusses there will be a new order at this coming time. He said there will come in time. He said it was never meant on the earth to have top-down control on the planet. Not ever. Can you imagine that? He said it is this way because the bottom-ups did nothing to prevent this all these years. He said there will come a time when the bottom-ups will rise. He said the words in the Declaration of Independence were not mere words. They were eternal statements to God. And he said soon will come a time when all of the country in the U.S. will spring again with these words of we the people. It'll cascade from the U.S. and spread around the world. We the people, they will finally stand up. And he said, then it will change. He said, this is the change because he saw that we actually spiritualized the planet, the entire planet, the way it was intended when God created it. We will spiritualize the planet. It's that collective energy. You're cleaning up yourself one at a time, and it adds to the collective field. You see, it's a really important thing because I realized, oh my goodness. And I checked this out. I'm so skeptical, I want proof. So I had come across it, I guess it was 2 years ago, and I wanted to check, and I went online, and all over the browser, you can just put in the words, there are groups and forums and thousands upon thousands of them that now take this as their mantle. Thank God it happened. So we want things to happen like this, but no, it's divine timing, and when it's time for the divine universe. So that's really important for us to be patient, continue work on self each and every day. Forgive self, be kind to self. Be kind to self. This vessel holds your soul. You're going to be asked how good you were to your vessel. How did you treat your vessel? And then how did you treat yourself? How did you treat others? It's going to be in your cash. You have to explain to God, well, it's kind of, there's no excuse. So I love when the founding fathers, he said the founding fathers were the same way at that time. What they stated and said would be coming back again. And so I had read about long ago about T.J. Davis. And so it was, I couldn't believe it. Oh my God, a few years ago, when we were able with John Chautauqua and Joanne DiMaggio to actually witness, I had been waiting for this my entire life because I knew the story. And of course, Cayce died when he was 13, so he didn't get his second reading. But I looked deeply, did meditations on it, and I found something. He was upset, perhaps to this day, he's still alive, but he's losing it, his senility is set in. And the interesting thing about that is that he expected to be great, but the whole rule of reincarnation, you can't repeat. If you're a great president, you can't be president again. If you're a great lawyer, you can't be another great lawyer again, a statesman again. You did that. It's like a wasted life to repeat. So I likely came here and he went into military. And that was nice. And he went to all those, and I interviewed Joan DiMaggio on my show. It's on one of my YouTube channels. So you're welcome to look at that. But my whole point was, it was his energy field. Do you understand? He asked to be born during this time to see this great change from his words happen. If you don't know T.J. Davis's story, he had been moved around because his family was in the military. Yes, they were alcoholics and all that good stuff. But he came and the teacher said, I can't pass you to the next grade unless you pass this test. Well, TJ couldn't, so he flipped his paper over and he wrote the entire Declaration of Independence, word for word, and handed that in. She saw that there was nothing in the front. She turned the back and every word was exactly there. She said, with this, I'm going to have to pass you. But what I like is his energy field that we need. Can you imagine he came from Atlantis as Solon, literally, as you see there, and he wasn't so great there, so he's trying to make it up. Then he became Alexander Great, and he's still Mr. Warrior. Had a little bit of that here, joining the army and the service. Hopefully that's gone. That desire to be service and warrior is gone. And then he became Thomas Jefferson with all that was happening in the South at the time. So it's important that his energy to see we are the people was that strong with the founding fathers to put it into place and as for an eternal promise to God Creator that most have forgotten, but not yet. Not now. You see it coming back. I mean, thousands. Just go online, look at your browser. We the people will be all over. So I was so honored after all those many years of reading so long ago about him to see him now, but people mistake his purpose. He was supposed to have energy that sees this, to bring it back to us, just as energy field with us brings that we the people back into play, into consciousness. But people didn't see it that way, unfortunately. But he did his job. And I'm proud of TJ for asking to incarnate to inspire just with his energy field what we see happening today around the world. It's a good thing. Okay. So ultimately, the purpose here in this lifetime, we have to recognize. This is originally Atlantis. They didn't get the memo. 25,000 years was great. The last 25,000, their arrogance crushed the world. Okay. That was the problem. The spiritual ones were beaten down, stolen secrets, used improperly. Every invention that even comes to this day that's downloaded to someone in humankind, usually several at once, one will get out of the way. And the light bulbs were created by 5 people. One got credit for it. So the point was, at this time, we're back and we promise God a better view. We don't need the arrogance. We don't need the extravagance. We need to think of our brothers and sisters around the world, how we utilize the world. But most of all, our spiritual connection to the divine. So we need to meditate on your purpose, but actual meditation, not just once in a while when you kind of feel like it. You get up and you shower every day, don't we? Don't we have time to listen to God? Prayers when we beg God, thank God, or complain to God. Meditation is when we listen to the divine input, as Cayce tries to get us to do. He says 10 to 15 minutes is better than nothing a day. Heck, he says half a minute is better than nothing. But we get busy. But if we could do things on a consistent basis, like we shower, get dressed and ready, wouldn't that be better? At each time in our life, what is our purpose? Throughout the life, show me, may thy will be done. What is our mission? What can I do to produce soul growth this day, this week, this life, this month? What did Cayce say? Meditate on others. Ask that they have more awareness. When somebody says something wrong to you or does something wrong or treats you poorly, ask the God Creator send them more awareness, more knowledge, because they just did it to themselves. That's the sad part for me. I see that constantly throughout life. People hurt or harm people verbally or emotionally or physically, and I'm thinking, oh my God, they're creating karma for themselves and they don't even know it. They're doing it to themselves because that's you. We are parts of the whole, parts of the one. We have to remember to give to others. Care, meditate on how best to deal with others. Then, after meditation, take action. And you see me emphasizing act, because most people go, wow, that was really great. But what did you get through your medication? Can you apply it? Like Cayce showed through the dream state and all the ways that we live through life. Apply it. Don't just go, wow, that was nice. I don't feel like it tonight. I haven't felt like it for years. Excuse me, you promise a divine connection. I have 2 hours at nights at 76 of God time, where I go down to listen to God Creator and then meditate down to sleep. And then I do it opposite in the morning, 2 hours in the morning, where I meditate first in the morning and then open for 1 hour for the God time to get that divine timing for the day or what I'm supposed to be divinely revealed for the day. And then I can work. But I've been doing that since 1976. Yes, and I would even do the 2 a.m. one that Cayce talks about doing, because sometimes I'm up working and researching still. And still, yeah, I'll get up and go to sleep finally by 4. But the whole point is, I'm still trying to do what I promised God to do for the benefit, not of myself, but myself and all the others that are here at this time on the planet. It's not about you. It's about everyone here and lining back all these souls to align back to source. 10.5 million years. He's pretty patient. And it was interesting because as I was finishing a couple of little slides, I got a newsletter from Nan. I had just written this about the action. And all of a sudden she had quoted this on the newsletter. Talk is well, action is wise, deeds are golden. And that's what we do. We sit there, well, there's a lovely meditation. I'm good. Yes, prayer for others is great. But what do we do in the actual day-to-day with everybody we meet in life? Do we put them off of us? Do we embrace them? They are brothers and sisters. Remember, all one human race, 5 projections. It's extremely important to recognize. I want to get to this because underneath your feet is our changing Earth, Mother Earth, that's been supporting us for 10.5 million years. I'll say it again because we're a little slow. Just to remind everybody to get on point. But this is a subject, remember, I studied in depth to disprove way back in the mid-70s. And by the end of the 70s, I thought, oh my God, it's real. And I'd started to tell people we'd see volcanoes in North America. And lo and behold, what happened? May 1980, Mount St. Helens. Everybody remember that? So Mother Earth, as Cayce said, this will happen. He says it's in capitals. She made it. Gladys Davis Turner wrote it in capitals. It is a normal, natural process. But what I found in my studies all that time back, and I continue, I've kept track of all that time. What is interesting is I found that all the planets had risen to the same exact degree in our solar system. All part of the cosmic design of God created for great change. Cayce said the last 3 major Earth changes, major cataclysm, was 50,700 BC. The one just after that was 28,000 BC. The one after that was 10,600 BC. Now add that with 2,000. Does that make the half cycle that we've been talking about? That the precessions are 26,000 years, actually 25,772 years approximately. Get this, Cayce states it will happen. He said the Earth changes 360 degrees every 100 to 125,000 years. And you asked to be incarnated at this time of great change. 100 to 125,000 years. He said one thing that most people aren't catching. He says it does it in quarter turns. It does it gradually. Then when it hits its tipping point, it locks in. So all the land masses change, the water masses change, and it's happened countless times before. I had clocked some 136 times that scientists had noted the changing of the poles, not just a flip like they think. Okay, so all my work, you can go on my website and find, I have this, I've been doing this and doing workshops all around just on this for the spiritual value of why we're supposed to change, how to be saved as I was divinely guided, and what to do to not only to survive all this, but to thrive and to rebuild through all this. I was kindly asked to do a talk back in February 2020 by Nan Thomas in the group at that time at the annual Edgar Cayce spiritual retreat in the winter at Niagara Falls. I was an honor after Kevin Tedeschi had visit. And I remember even Teresa W. came at the end. She said, oh my God, we were on the edge of our seats. That was fantastic, because I like to compile fact with what Cayce said and all the confirmation, what we see around us. I had all that data there. I had been going around the world since probably, well, for the several years since the 80s, telling people about this in the world in detail. Okay. So it's important, how can I say it, that we understand this is a reality. We're not going to meditate it away. This is natural for the whole cosmos going through these beautiful changes. We're supposed to grow and change too, spiritually, mentally, and physically, as she is. She's raising her dynamic level from 4D to 5, actually 3D to 4 to 5. Some of us will go to 4D. Others will just finish their 3D life and they'll go back to the astral plane, and then they'll go to another world that is 3D to finish their 3D life. Others here on the earth will be going on to that 5D time, where we remember the telepathy that we used to have. You see it happening to yourself now in this new age of Aquarius. You can think about something and they'll call you. You know that. It's been happening more often. You'll write something down, it'll happen, or you'll see it come transpire. I was just like last night with the newsletter. So that is us getting into that mood. We're all connected. this groove, because Mother Earth is going to change whether we want her to or not. And I keep pushing it off, pushing it off. I donated 65 hours to the gentleman that talked about Nibiru, which Cayce calls wormwood, Hercolpas, the Planet X, the disaster, the destroyer, that kind of thing. Cayce knew about all this. He says it's going to happen. So we're in the fray of it at this point. We see it around the world. In 2020, before 2020, I've been studying all the data since I got my computer in 99. I could keep track of volcanic change and earthquake change and all that. And that time, scientists knew that for 20 to 25 active volcanoes per year were happening for thousands of years, only 20 to 25. And all of a sudden, I noticed in my work, in my classes, or in my conferences, it kept jumping. And I was guided and told, actually, when this would start, we'd see the gradual earth changes, I was told by the divine, by January 2005. What happened 5 days before? Sumatra moved the island 1 mile, 250 coastlines, 250 people died, and 15 coastlines were damaged. And that was exactly what the guides had said for those who were wanting to prepare in the highest way, spiritually, mentally, and physically. Not just physically, all must be prepared. You have to raise your spiritual awareness to match your high intelligence and your physicality to match. That's what we promise is balance in this lifetime as humans. So I thought it was interesting at that event in 2020, I always calculate before when I do a talk, 2 days before, how many, actually conferences or whatever, how many volcanoes were going on out there. And I saw it climb from 2005. I saw it jump from 20 to 25 a year to 30, then 60, then 90, exponentially expanding, 120, 190. I saw all of this happen. And then here I am in 2020, counting it up again. Guess how many I found at that time? Over 1,500 were currently active and erupting, with several erupting at the same time. Before, never, but one erupting at a time. Okay, so I remember doing a talk just the year before last here. I was asked to do a talk for a group here that was interested. And I counted again. There were over 2,300 active volcanoes and with several erupting at the same time. And today, that's exponentially changed again. So we can't sit here like nothing has happened and don't pay attention to it, put blinders on. That's called cognitive dissonance, thinking that we don't think about it will change. But even with what we see going on in society, don't you understand? There are mood changes, attitudes, families, changing our genders. What is that? We promise this, and then we think because we're stronger than God that we're supposed to change it. No, be your full self. You'll attract a mate that is personal for you. We choose all of our partnerships before they were born for greater soul growth, to enjoy that female body or to enjoy that male body. Finally, it could be several lives that it takes you to do that. But that's what you promised God to do. You don't have to manipulate like they used to do in how can I say it, early Atlantis. Actually, lately, Atlantis, when they started going and making creatures. When the first fallen ones came is actually when we started to do that, manipulate and make monstrosities. But it's important that we understand we are golden, all special, just the way we are. And so we wanted to adopt that male side of ourselves. So it's supposed to be in your thinking. We want to utilize our female side, if that's what you are, in the highest way, in the female, the highest energy, but operate in balance. Same with male and same with female. She wants to operate in or his body. If he was female several times, he wants to operate and learn what it's like to operate in the male energy field, yin and yang. That's all it is. So there's no need to go through these surgical procedures that the powers that be are trying to push, because they promise to wage and bring as much debauchery and depravity to the planet before this change happens, because they knew, as Cayce said, we're going to win. They've even adopted Cayce's motto, that there would be a new order. Remember, he did readings for 2 seated presidents and Secretary of Defense twice. That's why Virginia Beach is so built up with the military, because Virginia Beach will rise during the time. Not that it won't have shakeup, they'll still have to protect. They're going to have to. But you understand, he saw all this, and we're in the midst of it, but he wanted to prepare us for this. But this is a time when we're preparing for the golden age that Aquarius is bringing in. But there's work to be done. It's just not like that we can meditate it through. We have to change spiritually, physically, and mentally, like we promised God to do. that realignment, and to inspire others by watching us. You can't change somebody's thinking. That's not going to happen. You want to inspire them in your energy field, like literally TJ Davis has done for all of us with the We the People all over the internet. So remember, I watch as we keep going. I keep track of all these things for years since my computer in 99. So I'm on it with the events. I even have a Facebook page for that, the Best Disaster Survival Guide that I was guided to as well long ago. So people that resonate can prepare. Now, this is what's interesting because we had this brilliant and beautiful eclipse that happened on April 8th. And I thought it was interesting because everybody was so in awe of what was going on. Let me find it here. Actually, go back one. Okay. And this is the eclipse. And we see that it was interesting because it had that brilliant line that it laid upon. And this is oddly because the opposite direction had happened in 2017. Normally, these two events to cross like that are 365 years apart, not just a matter of a few years. And oddly enough, just 2 days prior to the eclipse, we had right over here in New Jersey an earthquake of 4.8 magnitude because that's where the New Madrid fault that Cayce talks about starts. Now you got it? Now you see what's happening? And we know, if we've looked at the eclipses, that in the area of totality, that's usually where it's more intensified, not just physically, but spiritually and mentally as well. You saw people go a little wacko. You saw them get angry, upset for nothing. And you promised through all that, you'd still stay your highest and best. How can you speak to someone in the highest way and mean it from your heart? Because God in the universe is watching everything you think, do, and say. You promise your best. Don't give your worst. It only causes you harm. And so here, nobody's recognizing this. I did a conference with Daniel Brinkler, Dr. Carl Johan Kalaman, and Dr. Richard Hoagland at Mount Shasta in 2012. And at that point, that was March of 2012, May, sorry, of 2012. And I recognized, and he had 7 people. He was a keynote speaker for the weekend. There were 225 people just for mine because I was talking about this topic. And I knew him from a previous conference. He said, Antonia, there were only 7 in my conference. I said, I'm sorry, I asked to be guided for those people that need information. But the whole point is, that was a 26,000 year event that happened at that time. So we're at that point, as Cayce says, to prepare for great change. So some people are here on the earth to complete their 3D life, and that's it. Others are here, and if they resonate, to not only survive, but to rebuild for generations to come, as we always do with the lighter bodies, this ability to have awareness and alignment back to God Creator. But we have to do the work, and that's the key. And so going ahead here, sorry, let me find that little marker. Thank you for your patience. All right, so the auroras, this is a real aurora. But unfortunately, in the last few months, weeks, we've seen them all the way as far as south of Tasmania. And they used to look like this, only in the upper latitudes. And now you see it looking like you see now, this. Sorry. Once again, fine. There we go. You see that red color is indicative of Mother Earth trying to give us hints and warning about the cosmic changes we're a part of. It's not just happening to the Earth. It's not a negative thing. It's called growth. We've been through it before. In fact, to incarnate on the planet, one of the requirements, because souls from all over the universe were trying to incarnate, you had to have been through Earth cataclysm before and excelled. That's why you came at this time, to put things in the proper perspective, not be jaded by what the powers that should not be keep trying to tell you. They won't talk about this. They'll call it climate chaos, climate change. And it's not weather manipulation. Yeah, they've been doing that since the 30s and 40s with cloud seeding. Come on. Because all the planets are now experiencing more volcanic activity and more earthquake activity than they ever have seen. Scientists know something's going on. And all the planets in our solar system are experiencing unusual weather patterns at this time. So you have to understand, it's not just, oh, it's passing. Yes, it's gorgeous and beautiful how nature does this. But she's giving us, like Cayce said, these beautiful gradual warnings. So it's extremely important that we be aware. No fear. There's no time for fear. You promised God at this time to use your brilliant intuition to what you were guided to do, to work on, to give your talents and abilities, your soul growth. There's no time for fear. With the events happening, you could see it as early as 2 to 5 years. Again, no fear. You promised you would handle it before you were born. So when you see these things, you want to recognize they're not just, oh, lovely events. They're much more than that. This is what somebody took from Cayce's book by Edgar Cayce on the Earth changes. And that's where all the areas that Cayce saw are noted that would have intense impact. In fact, we know Cayce said he would be born in 2100 AD. That's on page 104 of Edgar Cayce's book. He had that dream that they showed him. And what would be the new West Coast would be Nebraska. And then they find about his work. So everywhere will be inundated. This is part, because you see, this is the Pacific tectonic plate anyway. This is the North American plate. They butted up against each other. We know scientists used to teach us that it took thousands of years to form a mountain. Nope, it goes up in 10 to 15 minutes. That zipper we call the Rocky Mountains went up 10 to 15 minutes. The Pyrenees, all those mountains go up quickly, they come down just as quickly. But the big prep should be the spiritual preparation. And that's where we've been bereft. Cutting out family, not talking to people, harshly treating people, unkind, to swaths of people around the world, engendering war and patriotism, where we're supposed to be engendering oneness. Oneness. Did everybody forget the memo? Oneness, we promised. So on that vein, I want us to understand, Cayce talks about Arcturus a lot. And he says, Arcturus in our multiverse is the most highly developed spiritual civilization that God Creator has created. And there are 8 dimensions there. And those Arcturians, he said, and Syrians, the benevolent souls, once in a while decide to come to Earth to help people. He said Jesus came through Arcturus, and so did Cayce come through Arcturus. And benevolent souls come through just before Earth great change, and just after to help them get on track. This time we do it in that beautiful spiritual evolution. So don't beat yourself up, but monitor yourself. Do best each and every day. Could you have said it in a nicer way? Could you have done it in a nicer way? Took a greater action? Could you have cared more? Evil continues because good people do nothing. Edmund Burke. It's important that, like he said, it's because the bottom-ups did nothing. But now we see this gorgeous, beautiful world being able to form this Aquarian age of peace, love, and harmony. But we have to get rid of this. So all the old is being torn down. Old structures, old governments, old corp, all that stuff is being torn away because it didn't have a spiritual component in it. We had promised God, but we didn't do that. It was promised in the 1920s that they should start to incorporate spirituality. Corporations, they didn't want to hear that. They just wanted to see their ROI, return on investments. Let's see the profit. They stopped caring about their goods or concern for the consumer. So we have to understand that. Take yourself back in self with God Creator. One-on-one, not just Saturday and Sunday. On a daily basis, can you communicate? Can you connect? On your own with God Creator. Religion is when they teach us everybody else's experiences with God. Spirituality, we promise, is when we build a one-on-one relationship with God every single day. Remember what the first group was told, the first study group? They wanted to learn if they could be as strong, as developed psychically as Cayce. They said, yes, if you take the time to learn the lessons. And after 4 months, Archangel Michael came through. I love this. When the windows shook in his house, it felt like wind was coming through, but no winds. Everything was closed. And everybody jumped to their knees in this big booming voice. I am Lord Archangel Michael. He said, ye vile children of men. How dare you? You're wasting this, basically, is what he said. We're not coming back and wasting our time if you're not going to apply it. You can't just apply it on the one day. He said, we apply it through each and every day. So they go, oh, okay. And they decided to, and they finally ended up with John, who would teach in a more patient manner, coming through in the astral plane to give them the lessons. So it's important that we apply. That's the key. We just sit back. No, we don't have to do it. Now I'm going to go to sleep. No, I'm going to go eat. I'm going to go figure those appetites. Yeah. But you can. You promise your divine. Where's your divine part of the day? We don't even include God and incorporate God in schools anymore. You know, something has happened. So we promise to do something. They can insult us much more than they are, and they're going to try. But you don't have to go against them. Gather like-minded individuals, as you are tonight, and keep working and inspiring one another and all those people you meet on their greater soul growth. Remember to be patient with those that aren't aware. It's okay. in their own time, as Cayce says. That patience, can you imagine? God must be pretty patient with us, as I said before. 10.5 million years, we're still trying to realign into the oneness. We got to work on that. So ultimately, this is a little better picture. And I've had this on my walls, both the world and the US map, for quite a long time. And this is seeing what Gordon Michael Scallions, I investigated and researched several maps, and this is the one that was closely aligned to Cayce's map. And so we witnessed that because a lot of this is a Canadian area, as you can see. This was Manitoba. And this is, like I said, they gave me the location of the new equator, and it's actually turning exactly what I was told. I have a YouTube channel for that as well if you want to see. But they told me there, and then I have clients that are in that location, and they couldn't believe it. They were sending me, they have more ice and snow than they ever had. So all this is coming to pass, not because you did something wrong. It's not a punishment from God. It's called growth, because we're not this body. The earth has her sphere, like all the other spheres in the cosmos that we enjoy. This is just one time in your several lives. Yes, let's realize and recognize, let the memory come back in the highest way. Extol the virtues of your astral plane existence. What did you learn to apply while you were there? So you can apply it in this life now. So we can, again, spiritualize the planet, in Cayce's how we do this. So as you're looking at this map, this is just, again, North America. You can see a lot, inundation. And people don't realize, in, I think it was 2009 to 2011, they opened the Northwest Passage again. It had been closed for a couple hundred years because of the melt. And I tried to warn people way back before they were talking about Antarctica, and everybody argued. But I was guided and shown that Antarctica would, and then we see that the South Pole has moved, and all the melt is happening to reveal the pyramids. And I found a long time ago that there was a 600 million mile square rainforest, tropical rainforest underneath that ice. If it wasn't a gradual event, it would have been, if it was a gradual event, it would have been brown. But it's green underneath that glacial ice. That means it was instant. And that's what she does. We learn in 8th grade biology that it happens, or science, it happens immediately on those 2 points when she hits. And there'll be several that hit, and they already have from North America, throwing off the GPSs. Airports have changed their lines. So again, you have the soul growth and this beautiful event that you asked to come for, that you're going to see Mother Earth grow on a soul level, and to inspire your growth in soul level, physically, spiritually, mentally. It's happened lots of times before you were here. 4.5 billion years, Earth is here, man only 10.5 million. And I reiterate that because that should make us think. It's taken us this long to realign with God Creator. I want us to think. I want us to understand. I want us to be more aware of what's really going on. So ultimately, as we come to this point, we have to build and work toward this beautiful golden age that Cayce promises. We were there. And I love this saying. He says this several times throughout many readings. Be kind. Smile often. Speak gently. That's reading 262-109. So we can prepare this gorgeous golden age by getting ourselves aligned. Whether Earth is aligning, we must, or we have free will not to. Our free will, God still loves us, no matter what. So we have to remember this process. It takes work. It's not going to be instant. It's our meditations. It's our consciousness. It's the actions, the works, the things we do that are making that beautiful golden age. It's our essence of who our souls really are. The souls to remember, you're not just this body. You're not just this body. Thank God. We have one soul that lives forever. As Cayce said, there is no death. Birth into the spiritual, birth into the physical state for the transition. And we have one soul that's been through each gender, each nationality, every religion. It's ridiculous. We've been everything at this point. So there should be no divide and conquer. Those are your brothers and sisters. Love them no matter what. Help inspire great change on the planet. That's what we promised. Okay, basically, I wanted to offer that just so you can see. And this is to say thank you for those that allowed me this opportunity. Before we go into a meditation, I'd like to take you through a little different one that Cayce's had for us. But I want to thank you for coming tonight before we go into that meditative stage. After this brief and short meditation, we want to go into questions that you may have had. I see 5 on the board in the chat. And after that, I'd be happy and open to take questions. But let's take a moment. Remember what Cayce said? 5, 10, 15 minutes is better than nothing. So this is how you can reach me if you like and know more about my work and what I do for all these many years now, since long before it was popular, as we all have at this point. Congratulations to all for opening to this level of awareness. So at that point, what I'd like to discuss or go into that point of meditation, I'd like you to take a moment and I'm going to say a prayer that Cayce gave to this woman that was having physical and financial problems. And in a past lifetime, she had reached a high spiritual level, probably you. It's reading number 1286-1. Report is the reading for 4. And the affirmation prayer he gave was, I am the child of the infinite life that flows within me, has built for me a perfect temple to live in, where when I live and move and have my being in it with faith and love, it guides me, protects me, and watches over me day and night. So I am renewed each day, filled with health, wealth, love, freedom of mind, serenity of soul. And now I thank the Father and rest in peace, for all is well. And I'm going to guide you to a bit of a meditation, if you don't mind, after this prayer protection. So if you prepare in your own way with the breath and your head, you're welcome to do so. As I start with the prayer of protection, as we open our hearts to those unseen forces that surround the throne of grace and might, throwing about us the protection found in the thought of the Christ. As you close your eyes, you may say Oms non-verbally in your mind to open you to that awareness. Om, Om, Om. And what I'd like you to do is, in your own mind or verbally in your house, you may chant the A-R-E Om chant. And it is supposed to be discovered in this way, though. We're supposed to be looking at it in this way. It's Om. The sounds are directed into the abdominal chamber and the lower chakras, like this. Feel it in your lower chakras. As the sound changes to the E, one directs the vibrations of the voice to the upper portion of the abdominal chamber in the solar plexus area, and then into the chest. Om. Then it's the shift to the sounds that move with our minds, vertical vibrations to the throat chakra, where the voice box is. Like the O sound, should be feeling it there. However, when sounding in the ancient method, the O was pronounced O, O. The O then slides into sounded through the skull and the brain. The whole chant should be lower chakras, air, up at the chest, solar plexus, E, O, up to the throat, Om, third eye, crown chakra, Let me take a breath between. And you feel it and visualize it going into those parts of the chakras. And that is a faster way to align for your meditations. That is one way. And there are recordings of it also online you could follow. So it's important to take that step. And in that next moment, I want you to visualize yourself in front of the throne of grace, God Creator. And I want you to feel, with your eyes closed, that love emanating from God, Source, all there is, the great I am, the omnipotence. And feel it wafting right through you, mind, body, and soul, in the highest ways, aligning you back to the Father, back to the One, with ease, with joy, with grace, with great love, with the greatest love in your heart chakra, from God Creator to you, wafting you, through you, permeating you, collecting in your energy field, and staying with you. Asking God to be divinely led to your purpose, your divine mission, to your greater soul growth that continues till the last drop of breath. Asking God how to serve others, God. Asking how to greatly more align to thee. And may thy will be done through me. Feel that love permeating from our Creator, our Father. Om. Peace. Amen. You may open your eyes whenever you feel ready. Give everybody a moment to come back to earth a little bit. Me especially.
Thank you. That was such a gift to have a guided meditation as well. I wasn't expecting that, but also the exercises in ahead of that. That's all I could think of. It is a gift for all of us. Thank you very much for that. I mean, as well as your whole presentation too.
Thank you so very much, Don. Thank you. I think there's some questions in the chat. Oh, okay, so I hope Tara got her volume back. Volume is fine. Okay, so I hope she handled it on her side with Zoom. You have to go in when you hit that little microphone, to the little arrow, and then it goes on. You can slide your microphone all the way to the right.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're recording this too, so Tara can have a look at that after if she hasn't been able to get on.
Perfect.
Thank you. I got it. Thank you so much.
Oh, good. Thanks. Larry.
I'd like to thank you, Antonia. It was a beautiful talk, and I'm glad I had the opportunity to join in, and I look forward to the next one.
Thank you. Tara or Tara? Which one are we pronouncing?
Tara.
Tara, thank you so very much for your kindness and for coming. All that are meant to be or to see it are divinely guided. That was my hope. Thank you so much.
You are most welcome.
And Larry's still having can we hear you, Larry?
Yeah, you can hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
I guess I'm trying to see how I can phrase my question. You know, we all came into this world, as you were suggesting, and as Cayce has said, with a promise for soul growth. And then the fact that you point out that the Earth is in the process of changing. I never realized there were so many active earthquakes, or active volcanoes, I should say, around the world.
Yes.
And that unknowns to us, it's kind of happening underneath us. So, and then I get the concern, well, if this is happening underneath us and each of us has a certain lifespan, of course, I believe in past lives. Well, how long is this process going to take? In the short term, right now, we've got what Herb Perrier has declared, that Trump is the Antichrist. And you only have to watch what happened yesterday in the White House, where he's surrounded by all the people who seem to support him. And he's already declared that he's going to turn the world upside down in the US. So my question is, given all of that,
Okay.
is there going to be a turnaround that you mentioned we the people, you referred to the fact that we have to not only start talking, but then we have to start acting, and deeds, of course, are good. So yet on the other hand, we have such great movements around the world. So my question, I guess, is should we just kind of sit and watch and wait and do our own thing, or should we be concerned? Or I'm giving you an impossible question.
I can answer them for you if you'd like.
Yeah, but since you have a psychic ability, I'd like to hear your thoughts on where we're going, especially in the North, in the Western society.
And that was what Cayce confirmed. Literally, he said, because we rise, there would come the time that we, the people, would come and we would rise. He stated that we literally would break apart all the secret societies, which is what you see. Okay. And that's what's starting to happen. We now know we can't really listen to the WEF. We can't really listen to NATO. We can't really listen to the WHO. And we've had to learn it the hard way. So what ends up happening at this point is now we're seeing, this is where Cayce says the veil is coming down. This has been going on forever, but we didn't pay attention to it. Now we are. Our awareness is popping, so we're paying attention. Now, I will say that Herb Perrier and the Antichrist, we knew before we asked to come here that that was one of the possibilities that we would be encountering. We said we could handle it. We were all excited. Donna knows I said we were all excited. Yes, let's go. The rest of the divine universe around the cosmos looks at us as rock stars. I wasn't kidding, because we were brave enough to come during this time. You all are rock stars because you asked to incarnate at this juxtaposition where good will win over evil and triumph. That's what's truly going to happen. Now, what is to happen is, literally, I knew about of course, we all metaphysically studying the Antichrist. And Ruth Montgomery's work is phenomenal, by the way. And I ended up having a radio show after the walk-in. I forget the names. I put my show right after her in California so I could see her. I had to walk past to the studio and see what this walk-in was like. But I studied several of the books of Ruth Montgomery, who aligns with Cayce's material. Her last book was, what was it? The World Beyond, I believe it was. So you can look, it's a little short book, a little quick read. But she stated that she had been told and guided by those guides and several famous mediums that had gone on that side as a group were talking through her as she wrote it down, that the Antichrist would be born in what we see as the East Coast and go to great Eastern colleges and be from a well-respected family in the U.S. And so Herb Perrier is, I think, remarking about that. But you knew that was going to happen. But he is our brother. He doesn't even know he's the Antichrist yet. Now, what is going to be happening is the earth changes will happen. That'll stop everybody. We're breaking apart now. Those that prepared properly, like the elite are trying to do, but most of the elite will be sealed in their bunkers. They won't make it through. And they don't have the vibratory rate to make it through. So they've made all this wonderful stuff. They've got, I talked to the ex-elite whistleblower. George Green. I couldn't believe I'd been studying his interview for 3 hours, and then all of a sudden I'm next to him and his wife at breakfast at a conference I did for 250 people. It was crazy. And I said, "Your face is familiar." He said, "I asked, may I ask your name?" And he asked me to join them. So it's important because he had extracted himself from the elite for some time, but he said all their plans were all this. He said they've been building their bunkers, but they're not going to work. He knew this. His spiritual side was now aware after watching their heinous, for decades, their heinous plans. And he said, "Now we'll let people know." He told me, "Antonia, their plan is to have only 20 million left in North America. No one that is over 45. No one that is not Caucasian." And they've already chosen. Now they can be over 45, but that was their plan. But Cayce says that'll be broken up. And that's by us rising and not letting this take place. They only want, he said, "You know about the Georgia Guidestones?" And I said, "They can't be serious." "Yeah, I know about them." He said, "Antonia, they're serious. I'm trying to tell you." I said, "They can't be." He said, "I was in on all the meetings. They're serious, Antonia." I couldn't believe it. He said, "They only want 100 million of them and 400 million around the world to serve them." Yeah. They know the earth changes. So my point is, he says, we know that they're going to not make it. So I will tell you, if I could share more, what will happen is those that are of us that prepare properly, as we should, they've built all their bunkers. If we prepare properly as groups and communities, like we promised, if we go safely properly, we have to wait and train all of us for about 4 years, because those elite that are left will fight to try to kill each other. Let them do it on the surface for leadership, for the New World Order. It's not going to change from a meditation. The entire cosmos is changing. All the planets have changed the exact same degree on their axes. It's not that case. Now, if everybody on the planet would meditate in 1 minute, we'd have the golden age. But you notice that's not the case. And Cayce saw that. We're still going to spiritualize the planet, but there's work. So literally all through history, the Earth calls back just under 2 billion people. Every time she has one of these events, in her 4.5, and Cayce confirms every 100 to 125 years, he says it will happen. You knew it when you incarnated. So you promised to either finish your 3D life or continue on for generations to come. I have no fear, none, no time for it. But I'm working to build safe, sustainable communities around the world, and have been since 1980. That's my whole plan. Tons of people wanting to do the same thing that I've connected with. So ultimately, they will fight each other off after 4 years after the main event of the Earth change, because it'll hit its tipping point and bang, all the tectonic plates, all the water, everything will hit. And for 4 years, we have to share our knowledge, live a sense of normalcy with love, bring our spirituality, but we'll be more aware. And then after that period of time, after the elite have killed each other off, then it's safe for us to come and rebuild in villages the way we're supposed to know our neighbors, to give. We'll have a system, I'm going to say, that is fair trade, for whether it's like what's Michael Tellinger's system, the Ubuntu system, where you make 5 loaves of bread, you use 2 for your family, sell 3 or trade 3. So those kind of things will be back in place. We'll finally be at the spiritual state. 4th dimension, as I said, some will be going to 5th. But this is what exactly has happened several lives before. Just because we don't want it doesn't mean it's not going to happen. That's the whole point. You knew it was, and you said, I can handle that, because you're not this body. You only have fear because what? Death? There is no death. We have this beautiful spiritual soul that lives forever. Same soul going through all these beautiful nuances of time will continue. But on the earth, we promised to spiritualize, and Cayce saw we did. So I have no fear of Trump. I have no fear of the elite. They've been picking our politics and their leaders all those years, and they want that divide and conquer principle going on. So understand. And yes, he doesn't even know, like I said, that he is. So there's a lot more on that I've tried to cover as well. I hope that helps a little bit. But we win. We spiritualize the planet. I'm proud of the planet.
From what you're saying, and I get the sense that there are cosmic forces that are going to make it happen regardless, and that we have to prepare ourselves and others as much as possible. Given that you introduced the Aquarius age, which is the age of technology, I'm just a little concerned about artificial intelligence.
Excellent.
Where given my background in computers, there is and I know that artificial intelligence can self-teach itself.
Correct.
So are we as humans able to recognize it and not be selfish? And well, anyways, I'm just concerned. Do you have any sense of artificial intelligence about?
Yes, that was put in by the powers that should not be. Remember, I said the lowest use is technology. The highest use is brotherhood. And Cayce says we're going to end up the original Masons, not the ones that, colluded negatively. The original Masons, that creed of brotherhood, compassion to others, and relief to others will be the theme that runs not only from the US, but all the way through China and around the world. So ultimately, AI is literally everything that is given a download, like I mentioned, it could be used for the positive for mankind or not. AI is a trick the same way the Atlanteans did tech. They are the sons of the Belial. They are the reincarnated sons of Belial trying to do it again. If we're aware enough to see that, but we promise we can handle it, no fear. So we concentrate in our own groups and continue to work with brotherhood and compassion and love. I remember hearing years ago, Times journalists asked Bill Gates in an interview, Mr. Gates, what do you think of the human soul? It's just the two of them on screen. And Bill Gates said, well, I haven't seen there is any proof that we have such a thing. And I realized right away. So we do. And this is the whole point. People have forgotten they're this soul that's inhabiting this body. So I'm not afraid of AI, but you don't need your digital anything. We're spilling all that stuff. They have, why comply? 8 billion of us. We're stronger. There's more than us. There's only 100 million of them. We got this, but we have to recognize that. We were always stronger, but people forgot and just became complacent. We can do it. We don't have to kill them. We don't have, our energies are enough to raise in the collective consciousness from 40 to 50. They're not, because they don't know that they even have a soul. They will go, remember I said during that change, Mother Earth will make sure that we don't have an AI problem. But what he told me was, with their satellites and their drones and their garbage, he said, Antonia, I was planning on doing communities of 2,000 each around the world. He said, no, promise me no. He said, what? I said, why? He said, no. He said, they have plans for those. He said, promise me no less than 100, no more than 150. He said, because they got anybody left after Mother Earth changes, they have plans to take out with their drones and satellites. And so I saw that they listened to the wrong sources. And so they're all moving to Hawaii. Well, I was guided and shown that Hawaii will be in the new Arctic Circle that's to come. And scientists have confirmed for years that the Hawaiian Islands used to be in the Antarctic Circle. So what the guides gave me was correct. Let them move there. Let them be stuck. But wish them well. Those are our brothers. So ask for more awareness for them. They're connected to us. They're part of us. Even though they went the opposite way from good. They have to grow too in their own time and pace. Don't worry. Divine Universe will take care of them. There's immutable divine universal laws that will always work. That's the key.
Right. Thank you.
I hope it helps.
Well, I know the power of prayer and the fact that you're saying that we outnumber the others, that if we exercise that aspect, the power of prayer, that during meditation, we pray with the highest good, and manifest the highest good, then yeah, that'll work.
I like what Mother Earth is doing with her soul growth and helping us to inspire ours. And we have to be on top of it, literally, or not at that time. We have to be safe. But the point is, we can do this. We've done it before. Shouldn't be a problem. You are all, your ancestors were survivors. That's why you're here.
David, did you have a question?
Any questions, yeah?
Me?
Oh,
Yeah. Actually, I have a couple of thoughts.
You're sure.
Yeah. Being involved with technology and that sort of thing myself, I've kind of concluded that there's no way we're going to stop this AI thing. But AI is a reflection that's in our face and can be used to be helpful, or it can be used for destruction. It can be used to cheat people, or it can be used as a device to help you brainstorm, that sort of thing. I'm also a writer as well as an artist. And so I'm seeing these technologies falling under what I consider the same spiritual laws as, what Cayce is talking about. Our families are our spiritual workshop. Our technology is a spiritual workshop. How are we going to use these technologies? How do we use our emotions, our attitudes in our families, in our work, in our world, in our daily lives, responsibly? How do we as individuals take responsibility for these things? And every day is a choice. Each day is set before you, good and evil, life and death. And even working with technology like AI is still nevertheless choices. And so we may not be able to change it. We may not be able to chase it back into the bottle like the genie, but we can make choices about how we as individuals use it. So that's a couple of 2 cents there.
David, I appreciate your thoughts on that. However, Mother Earth will take care of the databases. I care not. And so that's misuse of the AI. I don't want to see another AI generated picture. I want to see someone's artistry, like you said, your own, David. By the way, David is 22-4 master number. He has a purpose or a mission this lifetime. He promised the divine to give the world. But I want to see everybody else's work, not AI picking out something. I want it to be created from the download we received from God Creator, as everything was. And literally, we watched the movie Oppenheimer last year, right? Okay, so we saw. He realized, he tried to tell him, we can't do this. This is wrong. This is wrong. And you see how they tried to swipe it and use it properly? Well, now our brothers and sisters around the universe have promised that we were going to use it for the benefit, like I said, their benefit instead. But if you notice, since 41, it's been blocked by our brothers and sisters around the universe. All the way through the 90s, 91, it doesn't work because it upsets the entire cosmos. So we got rid of that. And they have other technologies, but as Cayce states, he says, man may become, with the people of the universe, ruler of any of the spheres through which the soul passes its experience. So he knows, he says, for the universe was brought into being for the purpose of being the dwelling place of the souls of God's children, of which birthright this entity is a part, as he was doing in one reading. So we don't have to worry. 3% of the aliens don't like humankind, that we've been given this God spark. And 97% are benevolent, more aware than we are, more advanced technologically, using it properly, as David alluded to, than we had started to. So we have to promise that we make those gradients of change. I see a lot of people, when I look at their past lives, I think, oh my God, there's so many people that miss what they promised God to do. I use an advanced measure of spirituality, spiritual astrology, evolutionary astrology, that shows that immediately. So I try to give that to people that are open to it for their benefit, despite the what I'm picking up psychically, if they choose, because I don't want them to repeat again, because it lowers all of us. So as I said, the lowest use of Aquarian age is technology. The highest use, love, number one, the first cause, brotherhood, compassion to others, and relief to those in need. The elite, everybody that had the capacity to receive information, to make money and income, what had happened was they were supposed to help the rest of the world. They weren't supposed to hoard it. And we have now 1% of the population with that, and the rest are being shoved to the side and treated so poorly. That was not what the promise was to divine. Remember, they forgot their connection. They chose to free will. They for connection. God still loves them. Again, they'll go to another 3D world. Well, before that, they have some other things on the lower astral realm to attend to first. But in the meantime, we want them to grow and to learn to never do that to any civilization, not just Earth, anywhere ever throughout the cosmos. So that's going to be the key. We have to look at this. Rose mentioned it here. She says that what we saw with the power of prayer done with the Maverick, who was a part of us and had a stroke in November. But it's right, 8 billion of us, and we just, we waste. And so that collective consciousness needs to expand. Your neighbor doesn't know what you're doing when you're meditating, but you know what? It may prompt, your energy field could prompt your neighbor. That's the whole point of our energy field. We're not just this body. I remember seeing 2 gold auras on Dr. George, he worked with George Lomsa, who wrote the Aramaic Bible, Dr. Rocco Errico, when I attended his work for the Aramaic Bible. It was huge. And then the only other one I saw was on President Jimmy Carter. I was asked to sing, believe it or not, for Habitat in Los Angeles. And I couldn't believe it walking across the field. I didn't even recognize him. Saw this huge auric energetic field. He and Rosalind were twin flames. And you notice they work passive. But when the powers that be, shouldn't be, couldn't control him, wipe him out of the White House in one moment, 1 year. That's all he got, one term. So we have to watch our beautiful collective energy. They're brilliant souls that you don't even know. Kabbalists walk around, teach, and then they hide. They don't need notoriety and fame. So even when the people are famous, I notice they're giving misinformation. So watch the tendency. Always use a beautiful inborn, how can I say, that discernment that your soul, as you keep growing and your soul growth, recognizes. And what did you promise God to do this life? Each day, best yourself in the highest way. Goosebumps as I'm talking about it. But it's important that we recognize, and even through our technology, that all the inventions we had could have been used properly. We shouldn't have electric cars with diesel contraptions to make them run. I'm thinking of the idiocy of this, you know? And I'm thinking, how we're smarter than that. But it was a means of control. That was the whole point. And the movie that came out over the holiday in January or whatever, what was that? Leave the World Behind or something like that, where they had that. That was a big movie for Netflix and all that. I got to see it a couple of times. And what I noticed was the person was trying to introduce everybody else to what's going to happen. Those devices, or the electric cars and the IDs and the identification, is to control everybody. They could stop them, they could make them. They blocked and plugged all the freeways, so they were trapped. Smart cities are trapped. So whole point. So we promise we don't have to fight them, but all the governments are all illegal. All the governments that have been formed around the world, the puppets that they put in place, all are not from the people. This is our time. We promise God to do this collectively and in the highest ways, because we keep meditating. So the point is, I've not stopped. I'm going to continue. I'm going to continue to ramp up what I do in my life. I won't stop until the last draw of breath. And darn it, I'm here till I'm like, you see all these people living to 108? That's like me. I already got that confirmed. I got to be here a long time. So I try to keep fit now so I can handle what I need then. So it's an important step, even though I'm 27. But the point is, I'm trying so hard to inspire others that resonate. If they don't beat them over the head for your belief, but be kind to them no matter what. Love them no matter what. That's your brother or your sister. We have to support them in the highest ways. Any other question or statement?
Yeah, I had another question. This is really more of an academic question. It's not something that is going to change my life particularly, but I've had a fascination with Atlantis. Surprisingly, huh? Yeah, no. But you made a reference to them using the Great Crystal and trying to destroy the people in the Gobi, I think you said, or in what's now China. I've heard, and of course read in the readings, that the crystal was used that way. Your description sounds like the crystal just activated earth changes as opposed to cause the earth changes. Is that correct, or am I misunderstanding?
What happened was, Cayce says that they turned it up too high. They were warned not to turn that crystal up that high. It controlled all technology. Atlantis was more technologically advanced then than we are today. Right. And yet the aggrandizement got them. So they tipped the crystal because it activated all their vessels and planes and all that, their transport. But what they did was, when they tipped it down, and it was vibrating too hot, but it was already on the urge or the verge of those changes. It didn't do that. It's a natural change. But they stupidly did it because, you see, there were three, as you saw on the map I had earlier, it was huge. It was on either side of the entire, why it's called Atlantic. It was because it was all Atlantis. And then the three cataclysms made it down to the final one we remember that Plato talked about, or how can I say it, with the circles. So it's an important spot to remember. We've been here before, and come on, we keep screwing it up, don't we? But remember, Cayce gave those brilliant, beautiful clues. He said, when lava flows from Mount Vesuvius, it gives those on the West Coast, especially Southern California, up to 90 days to get out of there. Brilliant. We know Virginia Beach will rise, but not while you're sitting in your house. We know the system, the wind will be, when the Earth goes on her change, she spins at 1,100 miles per hour. We will have winds at 750 miles per hour. So rectilinear architecture won't last. I was even guided to what that should be. So all this is here. In other words, we have the process, and boy, don't I know Atlantis, my goodness gracious. But anyway, I won't go into detail on a personal level, but you can talk to me privately, and I want to share with you, David, what happened about the Atlantis thing. So
I would love to talk with you.
so ultimately, this is the information people would find, and I didn't ask for this, but I had 4 television development shows that wanted shows, and because they heard me speak, and I thought, oh, that's interesting, but it wasn't the right timing, so to speak. And so the shows were sold. I think the Natpies, one was sold for 23 buyers, but you need 30 for syndication, something like that. But I said, no, divine timing. It wasn't meant for people to hear. It wasn't meant for them to see at the time. Only those that resonate to the material. And it wasn't about me and my face. That knowledge is what I didn't even want to put my name on my website. I fought that. It was called inthesecretgarden.com. I thought, I just want the knowledge out there. And my partner at the time and his associate said, no, you have to brand. I thought, oh my God, because I had been leaving the name off all this time. My radio shows off all the time. And they suggested that's what you have to do now in the new internet age. So all that we're doing here is trying to grow and each day be better. So watch how you treat the neighbor, the girl at the cashier. Don't use the self-check. Okay, so what you can do is interact with people because your energy field envelops them. And that's how we make this grade of change. But Cayce saw, he would tell us the truth. He didn't bother not telling us the truth. We win. We spiritualize the planet, but it's not as long as you think that far away. Okay, we're seeing it ramp up pretty fast. So next 2 to 5 years, maybe, the way her change is, she's already tipped up. You see it setting here in north of the sun is setting in the northwest. It started solstice is sitting there. We're over time at this point. Larry, if there's any other questions or whatever, I'm welcome or happy to hear, or if somebody else has something to say before we go.
I'll just mention that if anyone missed getting Antonia's information, it's also on our website because Sunday evenings, Antonia runs Search for God group. And also on Thursday evenings, she has a very interesting group. It's the Edgar Cayce's 10,000, what is it? No, Legacy of 10,000 Topics. So that's another way you can get in touch with Antonia.
Cayce, it's called the Contemporary Cayce Worldwide. And what I do on Thursdays is Cayce had 10,000 topics he spoke of. Some people just want 3, 4. I try to cover them and how he told us to get through these current times on Thursday with those tenets that he gave us.
Wow.
Thanks. Yeah. Any other questions or comments?
I will make one more comment real quickly. One of the things that's going to be really important in our lives is we need to believe in ourselves, in our very spirit, that we are the God energy that we have promised to be. So believe it, act it out, pretend it's happening, act out as though it is happening, and make it real in your mind and in your reality, in your environment. Thank you.
And the little g, thank you, David. The little g, always honoring the Divine Father, number one. Always bow to the Father. So ultimately, Jesus gave us the way. He showed us the way. Can we not? For everything. He, like I said, he loved everyone, no matter who, and still show that filial love. He didn't have a partner or mate. That was contraction that somebody did. But the whole point, Cayce covers all these details in great detail. That's why I couldn't believe he filled in blanks and times and places and locations in trance state. It's just amazing that other philosophies and theosophies and scientific facts couldn't. They're still not catching up to this day. So we honor his great legacy to us on Thursday. So you're welcome to come the same time, Eastern time, 7 to 9.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Antonio, that you've given us a tremendous amount of information, and not only that, encourage us to believe in ourselves, as David has said. and believe in the power of prayers, and that we shall evolve the way I guess it's destined to be. So thank you again for taking the time and giving us the beauty and of your knowledge.
Thank you so very much. May it guide everybody in the highest ways from this day forward. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity. God bless us all. Thank you.